Love it. It is the Thursday edition of Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe. Happy Throwback Thursday.
Yeah, it's Throwback Thursday where the younger of the two, I'm the old guy, and Dan tries to, buffalo me as far as...
Buffalo? I don't know about that.
of the song. I know it's Steve Miller.
Yep.
I'm not sure. Is it some kind of magic word?
Yes, it is.
It's abracadabra.
Yes, it is.
1983, I'm going to say.
82. Yeah, you were close. 82. Very good.
I was playing rock and roll then. We played that song.
Were you?
Yeah. So I'm
This was on Top 40 as well, so it was one of those crossovers.
Do you know what it was? Do you know what number it was on
the list? It was
list?
actually the number one song this week in 1982.
Was it really?
It was.
Number one.
Number one.
It was good. I didn't think it was that good. This guy is great. Ron Lambros.
He's number one in our book.
Oh, my goodness.
Used to work in radio. Listen to that voice. Say, oh, my goodness, again.
Oh, my goodness. No.
We need to record that and just have that on a button.
Yeah, who needs Dave Spiker when we have Ron Lambros?
Yeah, come on.
So you know our sales weasel, Stu Gordon. How did you and His Highness meet?
His Highness.
I was serving at a church here,
Yeah.
and Stu reached out to me, and I told him his name sounded familiar, and he said, your name sounds familiar, and we just connected that we had done radio together in Jacksonville, Florida, back in the day.
Really?
But you never crossed paths in Jacksonville.
No. We worked at some of the same stations.
Yeah.
But
I think he was on the work release program at that point, so they only let him out periodically. That's
He's a
probably
great
why
guy.
you missed him. He is really
a great
We
guy.
like to give him a hard time.
Yeah. So, bro, how long were you in broadcasting? You eventually got into the ministry and pastored for a long time. You got a book out, which we want to talk about. Hold this up, Dan, if you will.
Yep.
All My Love, Jesus. I love that. As I mentioned to Ron, I love the cover. And you can't judge a book by its cover. There's good stuff on the inside. But I love great covers because I think that's attractive. And I thought, wow, we've seen a lot of books come through this studio. And
that's a cool cover.
Some of the covers we go next, but that's a great cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, how long did you? When did you start?
I started in radio in 1970. I went to college to be a writer and ended up going into radio, and was in corporate broadcasting for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
And came to Christ in 1977 and took radio and what I learned in broadcast television to do. That was really the heyday for churches to begin broadcasting their own television programs.
Yeah.
And so I built studios and did consulting work across the country, and just been blessed ever since.
Yeah, it seems like that is a little before my time, but I know that that was not, I mean, in a bad sense, but with the churches really grasping on to the media, and they did radio for a long time, but they caught the television bug and said, hey, television's going in every household here. Maybe we should do something. So it was almost like a snowball, wasn't it? Once a few of them got on board, everybody said, hey, let's do this.
Yeah. And that's why, I would get calls from churches all across the country and go in and do consulting work for them.
Yeah.
There was a time when the FCC, the Federal Communication Commission, used to require a certain amount of your broadcast day to begin with or include religion, agriculture, things like that. So television stations would give free airtime to churches.
Wow.
And they were begging.
Wow.
And then around the 70s and 80s, those were really the heydays when churches caught on to, just the effective power of broadcasting.
Yeah.
So my very first church was in Mobile, Alabama, and I built a studio, trained volunteers, and we broadcasted live for, I was there for about 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, a lot of stations, a lot of stations.
Now, when you started off in radio, were you DJing? What were you doing?
Yeah, I did it all.
Yeah.
Found out that DJs were grossly underpaid.
Amen, Nick.
Wait a minute.
Can I get an amen to
That's
that?
for your management.
You want to say that a little bit louder?
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me. Val!
No.
Oh, Val!
Unless you're syndicated.
Yeah. Which we're not, so...
No. And then I do, talent and do some voiceover talent and work, and then got into sales.
Yeah.
Then I got my first-class radio telephone operator's license, became an engineer, then moved over to broadcast television.
You have done it all. You
Wow.
could, run a station all by yourself.
Good.
Maybe. Rules have changed.
Yeah.
Rules have changed.
Ron Lambros here. We're covering a little bit of his background, his radio television background, just because it's pretty exciting to us because we're still in the We're in the mediocre part, the sweet spot of our mediocre radio careers, Ron. So your radio career, thank God it's over, because it would go down if you stuck around with
You'll
us.
miss it. You'll find when you walk away from it, you miss it.
Yeah.
You
But
really do.
now with the podcast, I sound like an old guy.
With the podcast.
And Facebook Live, which we're on right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
a lot of that technology has changed. Broadcast has changed
Tremendously.
It's pretty amazing. I remember a few of the stations I worked at in the early '80s. They were still doing the farm reports between 5 and 6, right before everybody basically got up, and then at 6 it was your. Did you ever work for a station that did that?
No.
Oh yeah, we
You'd have
played-
sunrise sermonettes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'd always sign on with the Star Spangled Banner.
Right.
And,
And sometimes
it
close
changed.
if it was a daytime or
Yeah.
at night or in the afternoon, depending on the.
Yeah.
on
Back in the
station.
day.
Way back in the
Yeah.
day.
So you got into broadcasting and were a success there with television, radio. So let's talk about ministry. How did you, that call that you got, how did you get it? What was it? Describe
Did he
it.
call you at the station and say, "This is God. You need to go into ministry"?
No, I prayed to receive Christ at a revival crusade on April 15th, 1977.
Wow.
If you want to get specific, at 9:42 on a Friday
Wow.
night.
Wow.
So, and I had a wonderful pastor in Jacksonville that recognized the call of God on my life and mentored me for about a year and a half, and until I took my first church. And he taught me the importance of Bible study and journaling and just all the little intricacies, the personal side of relationships in ministry and things like that. So made the transition over to broadcasting. And while my area of expertise was broadcast television in churches, I never forgot the people factor. And people factor is so critical.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it is.
And so,
absolutely.
and that led to the book and a lot of other things. But I've always been very people oriented, and surrendered to the call, and been doing it for a little over 42 years.
Now, what was it in the message? Do you remember who preached the message, and what was it in the message that at that moment you were like, that's it?
It was a reiteration of something that I'd learned a long time before. I used to have a Christian friend that used to tell me, "Ron, your life will never be what it fully can be until you turn it over to God." And everything I'd set out to do and accomplish when I was in broadcasting, I did when I was about 25. I had accomplished when I was about 25 years old, and I just sat on the side of my bed and I said, "What in the world do I do now? What else is there?"
Right.
And those words came back to me. You'll never know what your life can fully be until you get over to God. And that's what I did. And I said, "God, whatever way you can use me." And he began opening door after door after door. He had to kind of break me down a little bit first, because as you well know, when you're in the entertainment business, it's not necessarily an environment that you want to stay in.
Right.
And so I had to, he literally had to strip me of a lot of things and then build me up again. And it has been a glorious journey. It's been a wonderful journey.
Now, were you married at the time? or-
No.
Okay.
No, my wife will tell you she would have had nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. But we've been married 40 years now. I met her at my first church. When I was called to Alabama, I told God, much like everybody does when they first get saved, "God, I'll go I'll go for you anywhere you want me to go." And he said, "I want you to go to Mobile, Alabama." And I was just like,
Except for Mobile.
well, it was just Alabama.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was there that he had prepared my wife to be there when she moved there from Columbia, South Carolina, as a young girl at 14 years old. And we met there, and both our children were dedicated in the church I was serving at.
Wow.
And we were just, it'll be 40 years this November.
Well,
So
congratulations.
a great gift.
And you have 6 grandchildren, did I
Six
read?
grandchildren, two
Yeah.
children, and 6 grandchildren. Everybody's in Atlanta.
That's great.
So, we're within about a 30-minute driving distance of both of them. So it's wonderful.
Don't you
Very
love that?
cool.
Well, let's do this. We've got to take a hard break. Ron Lambros, we want to talk about this book. It is out, and you can get it, and we'll tell you where. All My Love, Jesus, Personal Reminders from the Heart of God. Check it out. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk.
IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-500-5588. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-500-5588 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-500-5588 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-500-5588.
Hi, everybody. This is Dennis Prager. You know, every week I have the male-female hour, and I, among other things, have been trying to explain men to both men and women. Men don't fully understand themselves, and women, totally understandably, don't understand men unless they are explained what men are about, especially male sexual nature, because it's so different from female sexual nature. Years ago, I recorded at a synagogue, in fact, a 4-part series of lectures called Men's Sexual Nature. So over the course of 6 hours, I talk about adultery, pornography, values, and sexuality, what men want, what they're like, what their nature is. Once women understand men and their challenges, they'll better appreciate the men in their lives. This is the best thing I ever did on male sexuality. The complete 4-part series is now 50% off in the Prager store. Go to pragerstore.com.
Welcome to the Unlimited Grace Minute. I'm Brian Chappell. You know, people often divide grace and law into two opposing ideas and then give little thought as to how the two can come together. But they're not polar opposites. They can and do exist together because it's only in both that the beauty of God's character and his care toward us is revealed. The law is not about what you have to do to make God happy. The law, God's standards, reflect God's heart, the safe path he's provided so that we can glorify and enjoy him. And his grace is what enables us to understand that purpose in our lives, and we live for him because he loves us to provide grace even when we fail. Grace then is not only freedom from the guilt of our sin, it's actually the fuel for the Christian life.
Hear Brian Chappell at this year's Faith Talk Atlanta Pastors Appreciation Event. To get your tickets today, go to faithtalkatlanta.com and click on the event link. That's faithtalkatlanta.com.
Today, I took care of the most important thing in your life, your family. I am a Georgia State Trooper and a veteran. I served my country proudly and then found a way to continue my values of service. Right now, the Georgia State Patrol is growing their state trooper ranks through competitive salaries, benefits, and promotion opportunities. Being a trooper is a point of pride and accomplishment. Challenge yourself as the road to trooper begins here. Start your journey at georgiatrooper.com.
Excuse me.
Yes.
In case you haven't noticed, advertising has changed over the years.
What?
Now, there's digital. You need Salem Surround. When a customer does a search, do they find your business or the competition? Is your business's contact information accurate and everywhere it should be on the web? About the right tools to turn visitors into leads? Contact Salem Surround for a free evaluation of your digital presence. Learn more at surroundatlanta.com. Surroundatlanta.com. Connecting you.
Good morning. Wake up and smell the coffee with Rick and Dan on Faith Talk Live. Brought to you by Phoenix Roasters.
Look out, it is the Thursday edition of Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe. Happy day before Friday.
All right, it's Throwback Thursday, which means Dan pulls these classics to see if he can stump the old man.
And you know this one, don't you?
I have to think about this one. This one's probably like 1970, 71,
Yes,
something
70,
like
yes,
that. The
very good.
Chillites and Ooh Child.
The 5 Stair Steps.
Oh,
is
the
name
5
of
Stair. That's something that Stu Gordon,
Stu Gordon would
our
have played
resident
and known
sales
that.
weasel,
Yeah,
would know.
He's
right
probably the
off
oldest
top of
guy
his-
in the room, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I don't know.
No, Ron says no.
Ron Lambros in the studio. His devotional is called All My Love, Jesus Personal Reminders from the Heart of God. We'll talk to him in just a second about that. what a career, right? Radio, television. And I love how he said, you don't make money on the air. He had to get into sales and management.
Then he matured and got out of radio. He got a real job.
Anyway, we'll talk about that and more in just a second. We're sitting pretty in the Phoenix Roaster studio here in Buckhead. And this week, if you put in the keyword Rick and Dan, what do you get, Dan?
You get 25% off your order. Excuse me. Any order, 25% off, and that is good through the end of the week. And then they start a new promotion next week, but it's Rick and Dan. You put that in the coupon code, and you can get that discount. So do it now online, phoenixroasters.com.
And we're pretty excited about September because Catalyst will be kicking off, and they always serve coffee there to everyone, and we're broadcasting live right there in the
Phoenix Roasters booth.
Yeah, and then in Alpharetta, where they're going to have some stuff.
They're opening up a new store,
Yeah. Meanwhile, All My Love, Jesus, this is a book from Ron Lambros. How old is this book, Ron?
It was published in March of this year.
Oh, okay.
But it's actually 42 years old.
Okay. Really?
So when I got saved in 1977, I started keeping a prayer journal. And that's the way I grew in my faith. I would read the Bible, and many times during prayer time, God would impress me on something, or, just little tidbits to remember and encouragement. And so I'd keep a prayer journal. And when I met and then married my wife, she has been after me for 40 years to write a book. And so I compiled all of this. What this is really a testament on what God has done in my life. And you can it's not in chronological order, but you can kind of follow some of the struggles I may have been facing at that time, or just needed some encouragement, and that's why I put it together.
And it was as your 40th anniversary present to her. Hey, you told me to write it, so here it is. Happy anniversary.
No, it was basically. Oh, never mind. We just no.
Cozumel or my book?
Or the book.
Which one do you want?
She is my greatest encourager and always has been. I wrote her a card after our first date, and she told me then, you need to write a book. And I'd been encouraged to write as a student and things like that. I never had time.
What was in that card?
Must have worked after 40 years.
Roses are red, violets are blue.
Yes, something very original.
That doesn't
very
work.
Original.
Ron Lambros here. The book is called All My Love, Jesus. So tell us about, you said that, over 40 years of collecting these, as you go back and did you go back and go, wow, I haven't picked this paper up or read this in years. And it really means a lot. What did it mean? And tell us about that.
Well, the ironic thing is, I could, even though it's a little over 40 years old, and some of the devotionals, I can go back and I could remember the struggle that I was going through at that particular time, or maybe some truth I needed to learn in my spiritual walk. And I'd read it, and I'd look now as I'm on the other side of it, and just realize how great the faithfulness of God has been. My entire spiritual life. So it's a little different when you set out to write a devotional. There's so many out there, and you go, oh, why another devotional?
Yeah.
The thing that's different about this, it's not really a daily devotional. I wrote it so that you could do it in one of 5 ways. You could just pick it up and read it randomly. You could pick it up and read it by title. You could read it by the scripture that is specifically for that devotion. You could read it according to the holiday, because I wrote some for Easter, some for Christmas, and literally every federal holiday. But the unique thing about that, in 42 years of ministry, I identified about 25 areas that people really struggle with, starting maybe with anger and bitterness, loneliness, finding God's will, and things like that. So I made a topical glossary in the back. So if you go to the devotional, it's if you're dealing with anger that particular day, if you pick up a normal daily devotion, it may not deal with anger.
Right.
But this way you can go specifically to the devotion, pick it up, and if you're whatever you're dealing with, you can go and find 6 or 7 devotions that deal with that specific topic. So it was just a little something unique that I did, but it's been warmly received, and one does not write a book to make a lot of money. And this is more an act of obedience than anything else.
As you mentioned, anger, and I love this, what you've done here: anger, bitterness, choices, confused, doubt, and you have the page numbers. Anger, there's 4 different pages, so you're only angry 4 times?
Wow, that's
No, I
amazing.
won't. That's what I will confess to.
Yeah, I see.
No, it's anyone who lives in Atlanta and drives. You know, you can write a
Amen,
whole
brother.
devotional. You know.
Amen.
But it's the only one that is chronologically in order is the very first one, and that was the very first notation that I had written in my prayer journal, and everything else just has been randomly, written from
Right.
time to time, and so it
So
was all compiled.
The first page is 40 years old.
About 42
About
years
42
old,
years
actually.
old. Wow.
1977.
Read that first page for us.
Trust him in it all. And of course, you recognize Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll make your path straight. And faith is always tested at the intersection of why and trust me. When you come to God with those situations and problems that make us ask him why, he answers with a simple trust me. And I still trust him every day. It's you cannot trust God in those things which you choose and not trust him in others. You either trust him with it all or with absolutely nothing at all. Your choice will either provide you with a powerful faith to carry you through the ups and downs of life, or a faith that struggles with the slightest circumstance. The choice is yours. Trust him. And then with every devotion I put, take him with you. And it's just a little snippet that you can take, with you. And it said, you either trust God with it all or with nothing at all. So
I
it's
like
not
that.
an either or.
Yeah.
But I was going through some serious struggles, in my growth there, because I was having to give up relationships. I was having to give up certain lifestyles and things like that. And those were some struggling days back in the day. And but like I said, God broke me down, and much like Job, everything that I had to give up or was taken from me during that time, God multiplied again and again and again. I have a godly father. My dad was saved. My mom was saved. Have a godly wife, godly children, and 2 of my 6 grandchildren have come to Christ.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
So they're 8 years old.
And speaking of that godly wife, she's watching on Facebook and giving us a glimpse into your marriage. She says he wants to tell you that I nagged him to write the book. Is that
No, I was leaving contentious drip out of the out of the conversation. But
Okay.
her encouragement has always been
So it's
been
encouragement,
a
not
blessing.
nagging.
I call it encouragement.
Yeah.
Consistent encouragement. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ron Lambros here. All my love, Jesus, personal reminders from the heart of God. Your kids read this? Did they read it over the years? Did you open it up for them before it became a book? Or
No, I was the president of an international broadcast ministry here in Atlanta, and I used to post some of those on my website or our website, the broadcast website, and I would get 5,000-6,000 people that would watch
Wow.
that, but I never just sat my kids down and showed them. A lot of the time, most of what they saw in the book was for the very first time. It's from their dad's heart. It's I would like to say they've read it cover to cover, but you never can tell. Never can tell.
have they responded at all after you given them?
They bought a few.
Yeah.
To give
Oh,
to
they
friends.
did?
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah.
You're making them pay for it. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they bought a few to give to friends.
Yeah.
They are both part of North Point Community Church.
Okay.
And one is at the Decatur campus, one is at the Hamilton Mill campus.
All right.
And they're in small groups. And my son works for Chick-fil-A. Shameless plug there.
Oh, come on.
Anyway, he
We love
bought some for
Chick-fil-A.
his coworkers, and then my daughter and her husband bought some to give to their small group.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
Wow.
it's been good.
So your recommendation not only to, well, you can read it so many ways, either all in one sitting, every day, or whatever, but also good for small groups.
It is.
I love the fact that you've got here in the front just basically things like keys to your success. He knows what he's doing. Never give up. God uses the ordinary. Things like that. That's all small group stuff. You can just go from there.
Yeah.
right?
It is. It can be used in a lot of different formats. Really, like I said, when I prayed about writing it, I didn't want to just throw out another devotion. I just said, look, God, I'm going to put this out there. Use it whatever way you want to use it. So it's been used in a variety of different ways.
All right. Ron
Really is.
Lambros, we got to take a break here. The book is called All My Love, Jesus, Personal Reminders from the Heart of God. We'll tell you in just a few where you can get yours. From the Phoenix Roaster Studio here in Buckhead, it's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
We'll be right back.
Yes. In case you haven't noticed, advertising has changed over the years. What? Now there's digital. You need Salem Surround. When a customer does a search, do they find your business or the competition? Is your business's contact information accurate and everywhere it should be on the web? How about the right tools to turn visitors into leads? Contact Salem Surround for a free evaluation of your digital presence. Learn more at surroundatlanta.com. Surroundatlanta.com. Connecting you with new customers.
Hear the hits. Experience the war show.
Hey everybody, Michael W. Smith here. Now I want to personally invite you to join me for 35 Years of Friends.
Saturday, October 12th at Center Stage Theater in Atlanta.
No opening act, just me and all the music you've loved for 35 years. I can promise you, you've never seen a show like this.
Tickets are available now at awakeningevents.com.
Another awakening event from the Awakening Foundation.
Hey, this is Rick Probst of Faith Talk Live. Dan and I are pumped to have Phoenix Roasters as a partner of Faith Talk Live. Greg Bryan and the team at Phoenix Roasters help transform communities locally and globally while at the same time roasting extremely great tasting coffee. Phoenix Roasters, coffee that matters.
The bull elk's bugle, one of nature's most wondrous sounds. That is not a bull elk, that's Kim. Her RV sewage tank is spewing all over her camper. Way out in the middle of elk country. Yep, there's an elk. And that's Kim. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated price competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-494-2323. That's 800-494-2323. 800-494-2323. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Listen to your favorite Christian programs anytime on the One Place app. Download and listen offline. Stream to your car or automated home device. Download One Place at Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Faith Talk Live with Rick and Dan, sponsored by theoutletonline.com. It's a big deal where you can save tens, hundreds, even thousands of dollars on great items for your home and family. Theoutletonline.com. That's theoutletonline.com.
Faith Talk Live with Rick and Dan. Brought to you by Phoenix Roasters. Coffee that matters. On Faith Talk Atlanta.
Love it. It is the Thursday edition of Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe. Happy Throwback Thursday.
Classic tune there. It's Chicago and Feeling Stronger Every Day. I'm going to say, I don't know, 71, 72, 73?
73.
73, everybody.
73, yeah.
This guy doesn't have to talk like the old vomit voice
doesn't talk
guys.
like Ron Lambros.
This guy was born with these. Much like you, Dan Ratcliffe, you just... You know, Dan, and you mentioned Dan being on the fish for years in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
When I started working with Dan, and we'd go over to Publix or Star Bizzle, whatever, and he would just talk, want his, he'd ask them
order a sandwich or something.
Yeah, order a sandwich. Obviously, I just got out of broadcasting school last week. But that's his voice. I mean, he's not putting it on, It's not the, hey, everybody, much like mine. That's mine. But anyway, you're the same. So you guys were born with that gift.
Well, I don't know about that. But
Yeah.
When you were a baby, you talked like that to your mom.
I know.
Do you have any siblings, any brothers, or
I have a sister.
a sister? Well,
Both
she
my-
obviously doesn't talk like that, right?
No.
Her voice is not that deep. No.
No, she still lives in Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah?
Both my parents are deceased.
Ah,
But
Sorry.
Yeah, she's still there.
Awesome.
Still there.
Ron Lambros, all my love, Jesus, personal reminders from the heart. We'll cover some more in just a second. Coming up October the 8th, it is the annual Pastors Appreciation Event, and Pastor Brian Chappell is our keynote speaker. And where's it going to be, Dan?
It's going to be at the Cobb Energy Center, again, October 8th. And we'd love for you to get signed up. You, Pastor, and your staff. Bring everybody, and you can get signed up at faithtalkatlanta.com. Should be a banner on there. You can just click on it and get signed up.
You talk about Jacksonville. We're praying for the folks in Florida because Dorian could just really whack a lot of Florida.
Yeah.
So-
I was there when Hurricane Dora hit.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville's never taken the full brunt
Right.
of a hurricane. The closest they came was Hurricane Dora, which came in around St. Augustine.
Yeah.
But it was, it decimated the city.
Our, our prayers with those guys.
Yeah,
All My
thanks.
Love Jesus, where can they get this? Amazon probably, right?
Amazon.com, when I published the book, the way to do books now, unless you're a big-time author, is self-publishing.
Yeah, publish it yourself. Yeah.
So it's available on Amazon.com, either in paperback or in ebook. We decided to hold off on the audio version,
Right.
Because a devotional doesn't really lend itself to an audio version.
But people would love to hear that voice. Read those devotions.
Yeah, well, we'll think about that.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome.
Do you have another book in you?
Percolating.
Percolating.
I've been encouraged to write another one, and I would love to. My wife and I are in a holding pattern. Since that was released the last 4 months, we've just been praying about where God wants to go next.
Right.
So we don't know. I'm doing some consulting work, part of my ministry. And we talked about broadcast television for churches. Churches are realizing now it used to take millions of dollars to do, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, even on a small scale. Even a small church can reach the world literally on the internet.
Yes.
You know,
very
podcasts,
easily.
broadcasts, things like that. And so branding and social media has opened up just a massive marketplace for what churches can use and how they can use it very, very effectively to brand their church and their ministry and really get the word of God out.
Do you find there's some churches that are hesitant to do social media, or are most of them just really grasping it and going, yeah, we need to do this?
A lot of them are. You know, I don't know if all the pastors in the world are embracing it yet, but they should.
Right.
If you don't have a social media presence, you're gonna miss out on a golden opportunity.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful. I mean, it's a two-edged sword. It
Yeah.
can be a positive or a negative,
Yeah.
depending on how it's used.
Right.
So, and once it's out there,
You can't get it back.
Get it back. No, that's the hard part of social media, and a lot of people have learned that.
It's
Yeah.
interesting, too, because we have a lot of the demographics here, especially on the 8th floor where Dan and I work. I'm probably one of the oldest up there. Then we've got some 40s, 30s, and some 20s up there. So everybody uses their thing. Of course, I always make fun of the Facebook.
The Facebook.
That's what us old guys use.
Yeah.
You've got Twitter, and then you've got the Instagram, and what's the other one that
Snapchat. I mean, there's anything and everything.
that the
yeah.
younger ones use. So if we really want to do this right and minister to the whole pie, if you will, you've got to really play around with all of it, right?
You really do. Facebook, you're going to get a good amount. And again, you referred to it. It all depends on the demographic you're trying to reach. So I've been, I use Facebook quite a bit, and I do Instagram, mess around with Twitter a little bit, you know. Twitter, you almost have to do it daily and multiple times during the day just to keep your recognizability, out there.
And I don't ever think about that. Mostly I do Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, I always forget to do anything. So
I don't mess with Snapchat. It's
Yeah.
got a bad rap.
Yeah.
And there's some things on Snapchat I don't, really agree with.
Right,
But
right.
if you really want to have a presence, you could do it very, very effectively and very efficiently and very cost effectively.
Yeah.
How can folks get a hold of you if they, let's say there's a church pastor and, they've been talking about doing something like this and they don't even know where to begin? Where can they get you?
Well, you can go to Ron Lambros Ministries .org. I've got a website it's still under construction, but we should be real close to launching at least a beta page. Or they can just contact me on Facebook or email me at rpltv2. I kept that TV out
RPLTV2.
rpltv2 at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah, love to.
His devotional is called All My Love, Jesus, Personal Reminders from the Heart of God. You said March you released it. What have you heard? I know you've gotten a warm reception from it. Give us maybe something somebody said that's really
Well, I've gotten
you.
some very encouraging messages. The Southern Baptist Convention, one of the things that I heard was the wives of the pastors that attended the Southern Baptist Convention, and I've been blessed to serve in Southern Baptist churches. At one of their ladies' luncheons, one of the pastor's wives in there had a copy of my book and read from it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was just like, I didn't do it for the accolades. The greatest accolade I had, and when I prayed over the book, I just said, God, I just put this in the hands of the people that need it the most. And I've heard from some people that said, Ron, I enjoy your book. It blessed me at this particular point. Or walking in a church on a Sunday morning and seeing my book with somebody's Bible on the pew in front of us. So again, it's not an ego thing. It's a ministry thing, and that's when I say it's from the heart of God. It's also from my heart.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about it is it's very personal. Is there one or two entries in there that just really stick with you with like, I remember that day that I wrote that and what I was going through?
Well, that very first one that I just read, that was the very first entry in my journal, because I was really struggling and I was asking God, and it's not wrong to ask God why,
right?
But sometimes He doesn't answer, and you just have to trust Him. You have to trust Him in the wait, because what I learned, and it's evident in the writing of the devotional, sometimes what God wants to teach you about Himself while you're waiting for your answered prayer is far more important than the prayer's answer that you're waiting for.
Right.
So God proves His faithfulness. He proves His trustworthiness, His sovereignty, His sufficiency. And like I said, for the last 11 months, my wife and I have been in a pattern. We're just waiting to see what God has next for us. And I don't know if I'll go back to work on a church staff. I don't know if, I'll write another book. I just don't know.
Have you gotten used to the waiting yet, or is it still?
Because I hate waiting.
I hate waiting too.
Yeah.
I do too.
What chapter should we read? Dan and I need to read this today at lunch.
The impatience chapter.
It is not in my nature. I don't like waiting.
Yeah.
But I have learned to appreciate the wait. Because sometimes when you're waiting, you don't say, God, why am I waiting? You say, God, what are you trying to teach me?
Right.
And that's been a valuable lesson, in my life. What are you trying to teach me, while I'm waiting? So it never gets easy. I don't think anybody who waits said, oh, man, this is easy. This is a piece of cake. No, I don't think that. But what I do think is if you're faithful and look for Him, He's going to show you things that sometimes supersede and far outweigh the answer to the prayer.
Right.
So it's been good.
That's so good. All My Love, Jesus, Ron Lambros, Personal Reminders from the Heart. Dan, you want to hold that up there again? Get your copy.
A shameless plug.
There you go. There, check that out.
There you
go. It is a great book, and we appreciate who you are and what you do.
Well,
and again, they
you.
can get it where? Amazon?
Amazon.com, and you can either type in Ron Lambros or All My Love Jesus, and it'll pop up. You can get it in ebook or as a paperback.
And how can they find you on Facebook? Just Ron Lambros or
Ron Lambros,
Okay.
or my ministry is Ministry 4, the number 4, Growth.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much, Ron. Well, we
My
have come
pleasure.
to a close on a week. Tomorrow is the best of, and then all next week because of I'm out because of Labor Day. Everybody have a safe and blessed Labor Day from the Phoenix Roaster Studio here in Buckhead. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
We'll see you.